Bro, why did you leave? You could have been one of the revolutionaries, man. Yeah. You know what happens to revolutionaries? They either go to jail or they die. I was taking a walk through my new town today and I walked through these beautiful gardens and looked at some of the monuments and I realized something. Patriotism is born out of protecting the beauty of your land. Not just the physical beauty, not just the art, but also the way of life and the law and the community and the culture. But all these things are represented through the beauty of the country, which is the art and the landscaping and all the work that has been put into building the facilities, the infrastructure, the laws. When you have a way of life that is beautiful, it becomes worth protecting. And this made me realize why there are some places where you don't really get patriotic people who love the country. It's because the country has not built anything of substance. If there's no artwork, if it's a lawless land, if there's no infrastructure, then it's going to be very difficult for the people to become attached to that land. I think that's why in ancient warfare and even in modern warfare, what an occupying force would do is destroy monuments and records and the history so as to demoralize the people, so they have nothing to attach themselves to the land anymore, for them to fight for it. If all that stuff is burnt, the new generation coming up doesn't know what they've lost, and they are more willing to comply with the invading or dominant culture that has come in. Fight for a land that has not built any kind of system that is beautiful or worth protecting. It's a very difficult thing to do. And so when you ask someone to be a revolutionary, you are asking them, in essence, to make the ultimate sacrifice, to be willing to be a martyr. Let's look at some key revolutionary figures, shall we? Let's look at Patrice Lumumba in DRC, Zaire at that time. What happened to him? Let's see. Assassinated by political rival who was backed by the West, ended up in a vat of acid, chopped up. Let's look at South Africa. Nelson Mandela. Okay, he didn't die, but he was in jail for 27 years. What happens when he gets out of jail? Yeah, you know that independence you broke it for, the end of the apartheid. Yeah, you'll get that. But in terms of all the wealth and the assets in the country, still owned by the same apartheid instruments. And yeah, by the way, your wife is divorcing you because you were in prison for 27 years. Yeah, you know, there is a reason why revolutionaries tend to be young men. It's because young men have nothing to lose. Once you get a bit older, when you have responsibilities like your wife, your children, the idea of being that figure who's leading the way with a torch for all these revolutionaries, it's very difficult because, you know, revolutions don't pay bills. In fact, it's likely that the powers that be are going to freeze your bank account so that you can't do your funny organizing of your rebels here and lighting fires over there. No, it's a difficult thing to do once, you know. There's something to be said about Lumumba and Mandela fighting outside forces. Whereas today, the main issue is within the systems that we live in. So the government system is so corrupt. How do you fight these internal systems? You know, if you do try to change things, it's going to be your own countrymen that will have you killed. You know that, right? So what do I do? Fight a fight that I probably can't win for the sake of somebody else's grandchildren? Or do I secure the bag for me and mine today? That being said, it's not as if we don't want our country to get better. We do actually want Malawi and other African countries to improve. But you can't fight on the front lines when you're at this age with this much at stake. you leave it for the younger people with a bit less to lose, you know. That being said, we can't take on an advisory role. We can be like the field generals showing you where to go, but frontline fighting, risk of death, and leaving behind some orphan kids, nah, you can't do that. You can't do that at this age. What's worse is people don't even appreciate your sacrifice when you make it, bro. Wasn't Mandela getting a little bit of hate recently? How could we be following this guy? He didn't even do anything for us. I saw a lot of that on South African Twitter. So, you make that sacrifice and people don't even appreciate it. Whereas if I sacrifice something for my kids, it's gonna be like, Dad made a lot of sacrifices for us. I appreciate you, Father. Which choice do you make? It's obvious, isn't it? When you look at it like that.